Hello there, and welcome to the TTP Field Manual podcast. Throughout the month of December, we will be releasing a series of character dossiers for our Advent Calendar project that we call Final Days. This is one of them. These shorter episodes will be each spotlighting a very specific character from across the lore and the tabletop of Warhammer 40k. The episodes will be very casual, a bit of an overview of the characters' personalities, what they've done in the lore, and a little bit about what they do on the tabletop. We wanted to do this as a bit of an easy listening, casual love for the hobby, just to round out the year. We hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for listening, and happy holidays. I am your evils return to you. I am the justice your victims cry out for, the protector of the weak, the light in the darkness, the hand of Asurmen. I am the Avenger.
Nice.
Hey, Zachy, who does that line up with?
It's, you know what? I didn't think I would know. It's one of the, oh my god, what are they called?
The dudes?
Yeah, it's one of the Aeldari. No, what are the aspects?
It's the Aeldari Primarchs?
Why does it have to start this way?
Is it the Aeldari Primarchs, Zach? Is that what you're saying right now?
Is it the dude who leads the Dire Avengers? I cannot for the life of me remember.
Woo! Claps in the chat. Claps in the chat.
Hell yeah.
You've got it. It is the dude.
Oh my god, what's his name?
It's the Dire Avengers.
Why?
I don't know. What is his name?
I don't know.
It's your episode now.
I'm the episode now. Oh.
I'm just gonna email you my notes. It's your episode now. Who is it?
Check my email. There's no notes. Oh my god. I can't for the life of me recall his name, but I know he's the dude. He's the dude.
It's Asurmen. It's Asurmen. Zach, it's Asurmen. Say Asurmen.
It's Asurmen, Josh.
Oh, he got
Asurmen
it.
Gold.
Claps in the chat.
Oh, very good.
All right, Asurmen. I love Phoenix Lords, and I think if you don't, why?
That's what they're called, right? So you've got the Phoenix Lords are the lords of the different aspects of the Aeldari armies, correct? Yes, that was the one.
Absolutely, you figured it out.
Very cool. Warp spiders are the coolest.
Warp spiders are fantastic. I have a soft spot for fire dragons, and I'm sorry that they were the very first aspect warriors you had to face.
Look, as we just talked about salamanders, I too am a fan of fire. So, but that's not who we're talking about this episode. Mr. Asurmen himself.
You know what, though?
Mm-hmm.
Fire Dragon Phoenix Lord was meant to be a character that was covered in last year's version of this Final Days Advent Calendar. But for time, we didn't.
Sounds like you'll just have to do that one as well.
He'll be back when the prophecy dictates. We'll get into prophecy later. I love Phoenix Lord, Zach. I'm gonna paint you a picture,
Please
okay?
do.
So, back in the day, Warhammer 40k Apocalypse was beginning. The big game mode, right? The one with so many models and units it takes you a weekend to play. But you need some suitably cranky looking data sheets, right? So Apocalypse and its supplements added things to the game that were so powerful you can only play them in Apocalypse, usually. Including such units as the Tetragon of Darkness, which is just 4 greater demons in a basket.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. But one such formation was called the Phoenix Court of Khaine. The Phoenix Court of Khaine was literally the avatar of Khaine and each of the 6 original Phoenix Lords as one unit formation. Yikes. That's the Avengers coming into the Battle of New York. Like that.
Yep.
And when I first got into this hobby, my first White Dwarf magazine, the battle report covered, the dude had that. He had the Phoenix Court of Khaine in his army. And since that moment, the first issue, until this very day, it's still my favorite idea for an army.
That's a pretty sick idea, I must say.
And I would have done Aeldari, as I mentioned on the pod before, if not for the fact that every time I picked an army and invested somewhat into it, they would then release a wave of new models. for Aeldari, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh. So I just buy them when I feel like it, but they're not my main. But Phoenix Court of Khaine will happen one day, I swear. And that's what the episode of today actually is. It's not just Asurmen, Zaki. It's the Phoenix Court of Khaine.
I've been bamboozled. How could you do this?
You've been bamboozled. It's all of them.
It's all of them. Very good.
Do you know how we're going to fit all of them in?
No, you can tell me though.
Like salamanders, each of them have almost fuck all lore.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Because Aeldari don't get respect in this game.
I was about to say, how is that so? But I mean, it's kind of all Xenos, except for Necrons and Orcs.
Orcs and Necrons get some love.
I got it right.
Imperium get a lot of love. Chaos get a decent amount of love. But Aeldari are like the limp noodle of the faction. They're the beat stick by which other factions' power level is measured. And this is the race whose whole shtick is we're dying and we're the last ones left. How many of you can be killed by another faction till you're just not there anymore?
Exactly.
Well, we don't know because they don't write that many books, Saki.
Yeah.
But they did write 2 novels that each were actually very specifically on a Phoenix Lord, which I think is pretty neat. They had a book for Asurmen, and they had a book for Jain Zar. How cool.
It's pretty awesome.
But we need to go back in time before there were Phoenix Lords and Aspect Warriors. I'm painting you a picture again. Imagine, if you will, you are a young child.
Mm-hmm. I'm there.
You are growing up in the future. You are growing up in a race who has mastered the galaxy. You want not, you need not, you've got it all. But as you get a bit older, all the news reports are saying that your various societal members are up to some heinous things. And so there's a bit of civil unrest as some people are starting to leave the greater civilization for the small towns, the rural places. Some people are forming hippie communes to get away and back to their spiritual roots,
Yeah.
And let's say you have a brother and your brother wants to go join this like hippie commune. He says to you, it's happening. Like all this stuff they're saying is really happening. We have to leave before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like, nah, it can't be that bad. And then all of a sudden, pop, Slanesh.
Oh.
Your whole society, just big brain energy, birthed a very, very, very evil god into existence. And that evil, evil god is immediately eating your gods.
Yeah, not good.
And trillions of your brethren, your kin spirits. And there are just demons everywhere. And society is collapsing instantaneously. And that is what this one young child that you were just assuming you were found themselves in the middle of.
Yeah.
This person and their brother managed to find sanctuary in a temple on the world they were on, which is called Ida Pharaon. And your name is also Illithan. Illithan and his brother, Tathesis, were on their way to go do the hippie stuff, join the Exodites.
Yep.
But then the demons come and the world's turned upside down. And you take sanctuary in this temple to survive. For some reason, some holy reason, the demons don't dare to come near this temple because there is still an essence of your actual gods there protecting the place. But years pass and the world is done for. Your brother, unfortunately, was possessed by a demon and you had to kill him.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Sounds like no good.
Eventually, you are the only one left in this place, and you start to think about, well, is life worth living?
Yeah.
And the answer you decide on is not a good one for the continuation of one's life.
Subtle.
I didn't want to do the TikTok censoring of saying unalive.
Yeah,
that's a
cringe.
stupid word.
That's cringe.
That's cringe. That's cringe. Get it out. So, what stops you from doing this activity? Well, actually, it was a young girl. Now, imagine if you were this young girl who's growing up on this world where everything of this nature is going to crap. Where did this young girl come from?
Yeah.
So this young girl, her name was Farathil. Farathil grew up as a gladiatorial dancer across the country, if you will. Growing up is as an acrobatic dancer / good fighter. But then, as all of this is coming crashing down, she starts to realize the demons and all that aren't really going for my people. And yet, as time goes on, you start to realize that your people that you're with, that you're a dancer for, are taking slaves. They are forcing you to fight what you realize later were actually prisoners trying to fight for their life, but you were tasked with killing them, it turns out, and you decide that's not for you. So you flee this place and you flee the country and you're being chased down because how dare you leave, and you run into this temple of the old gods and you see a young fella who's about to do something not great, and you stop him like, hey man, don't do that, that's not good. And then you part ways. After you have that moment, the girl goes back to her commune to try and procure weapons and supplies, but they find her and they chase her properly this time. She goes back to this temple and is really in a bad spot because what would be known as the Drakari are chasing this girl to bring her back to their terrible little empire they begun carving out in the wake of this very bad day in their society. But the young fellow that she had saved now saves her.
Nice.
This now young man, Ilithin, declares himself Asurmen, named after the god Azurian, and saves her. The girl agrees to flee the planet with them, taking one of those flying Drakari barges that is left behind after their fight, and she renames herself Jain Zar. How's that for an opening?
That is indeed a very interesting.
Were you anticipating such a tragic way to begin the narratives of two would-be Aeldari Primarchs?
I suppose not. It is a little bit of a tragic backstory.
It's really sad. But now Asurmen wants Ilithin, and now Jain Zar wants Farathil. They flee the world of Ida Pharaon, and they come across a barren world, moon, hard to tell, and they name it Azur after Azurian or Asurmen, and they form a sort of warrior culture that they name the Azuriya or the Azuyar, however you want to pronounce it. And the Azuyar would be just this almost war college, I suppose, where Asurmen would find like-minded individuals that he would raise as disciples, teaching them the ways of warfare and fighting and essentially becoming the champions and guardians of their race. Now, Jain Zar would be the first of his disciples. Jain Zar would become the founder of the Howling Banshees. But the people founding these various aspect warrior shrines would do so, after their training, so to speak, after they learnt all they could off of this warrior sage known as Asurmen. And then they would go off on their own separate journeys to go and create more of these warrior shrines across the craft worlds of the Aeldari and teaching their citizenry in ways of warfare to, defend their people and engage in their eternal opposition of chaos. And there would be more than Jain Zar, of course. The second disciple would be known as Fuegan, who would go and found the fire dragons. Third and fourth were Maugan Ra and Baharroth, who are actually brothers. Maugan Ra would found the Dark Reapers. Baharroth would found the Swooping Hawks.
Yes.
There would also be a disciple known as Ara, but Ara would turn to the dark side, if you would. He goes the route of Anakin and completely leans into the dark emotions and negative way of conducting oneself that's a little inherent in being somewhat of a warrior god, because the Aeldari are quite an emotionally driven species.
Mm-hmm.
And Ara, who would actually be the founder of the Striking Scorpions, would be essentially fought off by his successor, who is Karandras, with Ara fleeing to possibly help lead the Incubi Temple of the Drukhari under the moniker of Drazar.
Oh, very interesting.
It's not fully confirmed, but it's heavily implied. Naturally, there are some others. Recently, we've just gained Lhykis of the Warp Spiders, who previously did not exist except for a vague name known as Lhykosidae, but that person did not have lore or a model or art or anything like that, so Lhykis is a brand new person for us to consider. Irilith of the Shadow Spectres is a Forge World creation back when they did Imperial Armor volumes. Irilith and the Shadow Spectres are flying around the battlefield, super long range warfare individuals who actually have a targeting matrix that connects all of their weaponry to form a singular beam of long range devastation, kind of like an inverted telescope, which, a telescope receives the image that it's been pointed at. The Shadow Spectres are instead the ones sending that image out in the form of their actual laser beam thing. And they're able to nanosecondly adapt the beam so it actually moves through the air. So they can be across the battlefield, but they can snipe tanks with an anti-material beam. It's a pretty cool little niche as well. There's Drastanta of the Shining Spears, the Jet Bike Boys. There's a few little bits and pieces there, but the ones I said at the start, the ones who actually have models are the main crew.
And so, more or less, all the Phoenix Lords started out as just normal, everyday run-of-the-mill Aeldari folk.
Yep, just scattered wayward souls brought under the banner of the Azuria to learn a way of war and fighting to survive, to protect their species. And then, as time would go on, these individuals would hone their particular way of war. Baharroth would be the quickest of them, so he lent into aerial warfare, with swooping hawks actually being a little anti-tank-ish in a sense, where they fly through the air at Mach speeds, sound barrier breaking speeds, to essentially just be oh, there's enemy aircraft in the air. Our particular planes are in a bit of a spot of bother, they're outnumbered. Let's go. And so these bloody birdmen will just whoosh into the air and just chuck anti-vehicle mines onto nearby things, and being little air mines, anti-air mines that they're just whoosh, 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 there they are, mine, and then just disengage from the fight, and then
Sounds very akin to the warfare in Australia that we experience from magpies.
Baharroth and the plover and the plover plumes.
Oh no.
Oh no, Baharroth and the plover plumes.
Yep.
So yes, they did all start off as individual just fellows who would master a particular aspect of war. Jain Zar and Howling Banshees would be a melee threat who use their masks to actually emit a sonic vibration that messes with the wavelengths of their target's brain, so they're disoriented by the howling banshees and then they're just then subsequently cut down by them in melee. The fire dragons are all about absolute destruction, just the complete and total annihilation of their foe, using weapons that, whilst you would think they shoot fire, apparently hyper vibrate their targets apart to the point where friction is what actually does the damage. Their target, whether it's the armored hull of a vehicle, it just begins to vibrate so intensely that it does melt. But you have Fuegan in lore actually getting stronger from his wounds because the flame of the dragon is becoming so intense that Fuegan himself has taken down a dozen greater demons in a single conflict.
Very, very impressed.
Yeah, you have people like Maugan Ra who are a little sadistic, they really lent into this dark moniker of the Grim Reaper in their, aesthetic, but they are a long range fighter. Wielding anything with precision is what Maugan Ra thought was a fine way of doing battle. So they have really heavy guns, but they're able to wield it with such precision and finesse. They are a heavy weapon squad, but they're basically carrying around things that other people would probably strap to a tank, but they are as honed as snipers. It's a really interesting blend, but Maugan Ra himself is no slouch and has even at some point gone into the Eye of Terror himself to go and save a craft world that was lost many millennia ago, that he formed a sort of debt towards, possibly for being his own craft world that was lost in the opening hundreds of years of the fall of the Eldar, where everything was starting to, if it wasn't immediately destroyed, would be sucked inwards to the Eye of Terror, and he had to flee because his craft world said, look, we're not losing a Phoenix Lord. Go. We'll live. And they did, surprisingly. They lost a lot, but the craft world of Altanzar held on in the warp for thousands of years until Maugan Ra managed to come back and guide them out back into safety. And everyone's like, how the hell did they survive the Eye of Terror? And they're like, we're not going to take off our masks. Like, why? Are you possessed, perhaps? And they're like, oh, we're just ashamed, we're very pale now. And then everyone just is like, I don't know, Maugan Ra's a bit creepy. This craft world survived the warp and won't, take off their helmets. There's like a lot of like unique little moments like that in the tapestry of Phoenix Lords.
Okay.
But for the most part, they are just seen as like warrior sages traveling the craft worlds, imparting their knowledge, creating shrines to their way of warfare that then if an Aeldari decides to go on the path of the warrior, rather than say like the path of the builder or the path of the sage, they will go in and to these little aspect shrines and decide how they want to devote themselves. But sometimes you'll also have people that are just extremely balanced and will actually be able to master all forms of warfare, and that would be what the autarchs do. The autarchs of the Aeldari are like force commanders that are able to wield all sorts of weaponry and adapt all sorts of warfare because they've done them all. They've maxed out the skill trees.
They've min-maxed their build.
Yes. What actually happens with that is, Khaine, right?
Yes.
So Khaine, Aeldari War God, smashed to bits in Slaaneish's birth. Now, Khaine was a bit of a prisoner of Slaanesh until Khorne himself was like, you know what? You think I should have a war god in my prison, maybe? And Slaanesh was like, I'll fight you for it. And they did so. But in doing so, it gave Khaine an opportunity to sort of eject out of the warp, and all of his little shards drifted across the cosmos, landing quite helpfully on craft worlds. And the actual aspects of Khaine, they would build like shrines around him. But the energy of the war god kind of permeates the craft world. And these various aspects of like the warriors are all sort of like little odes to how Khaine himself is. The Dire Avengers exemplify him for his nobility and like a punisher of the unworthy and guardians of the innocent. The Reapers, obviously, his sinister role as the destroyer. The Fire Dragons are his elemental destruction. The Shadow Spectres are the eternal warrior, striking from afar when you least expect it. All those little things. Now, let's say an aspect warrior is super committed to the bit. Their psychology, for whatever reason, won't allow them to let this go. Most aspect warriors are able to, at the end of a battle, take their war gear off, leave it in the shrine, and go back out and live their life. But exarchs, which are the in-game sort of sergeants of the squads, become almost like the custodians of the aspect shrines because they can't switch off. They are absolutely consumed by warfare and being this devotee of the war god. And they maintain the shrines, they train all the newcomers, and they also commence all of the battle rites when the craft world is getting ready for war. And it's really interesting that because Do you know what makes the Phoenix Lords somehow still exist despite all of their wars and all of their battles and conflicts?
I'm assuming they don't have someone replace the proverbial throne when they perish.
You do or you don't?
I don't. I don't think that's the case.
Well, what if I told you it's both do and don't?
How so, Josh?
Well, Zach, I'm so glad you asked. So the Phoenix Lords are by all intentions mortals.
Mm-hmm.
They are just people. They have like immensely well crafted armor and weaponry, and they are very skilled, and it takes a lot to get them, to get them down, to beat them. But the Phoenix Lords, a lot of them have died a lot of times because eventually they're just going to get got.
Yeah, as regular folk do.
As regular folk do. But the Phoenix Lord armor sets actually are a gestalt consciousness. All the spirit stones that are inlaid in their armor contain the essence of everyone who's worn their mantle. But regardless of who is actually wearing the armor, whether it's, a new person or the original, it's almost like over time the armor has got the original personality, and you essentially end up wearing like a costume, like you become the character.
Yeah.
And so let's say, for example, this is a thing that actually happened. Obviously, a few editions back, the story started to move forward. The Ynnari were birthed, right?
Yep.
As a little sub-faction. Now, Jain Zar was, of all of them, the most on board with the whole concept of the Ynnari, and were really posturing for their success. They were able to rally folks like Asurmen and Fuegan to her side and be like, look, my fellows, this is the way forward. Okay, sure, yes, no worries, let's go. Early on in this journey of the Ynnari, they would actually be ambushed in the webway by the Thousand Sons and Demons of Tzeentch. And all of the Phoenix Lords present would, dish it out and fight them all off. And I have a theory why they then left, but pretty quickly, most of them then left. Very much in the guise of like, we're hunting down the trespassers because they are in the webway.
Mm-hmm.
Jain Zar would stay with them. And a bit later on, there was a raid on a craft world that Slaaneshi demons begun, but throughout it, a particular individual was set out to achieve the bounty put upon the Ynnari's head. Drazar would arrive. Jain Zar would fight Drazar to protect Yvraine and the others that were present. This would be a bit of a bait, however, because Drazar would lure Jain Zar back through the webway into Comera, specifically to a part of it called Aeldari. Do you know what Aeldari is?
I don't, but if I was to take a guess, was it like one of those Drukhari like battle coliseums?
Oh, so it's a pretty good guess. It's actually the part of the city owned by the Mandrakes.
It's you can just say I'm wrong. It's all right.
Well, Mandrakes love fighting, and so the whole part of this city is a killing field. So it's not entirely wrong to be a coliseum, but Drazar lured Jain Zar and her other howling banshees to this part. Obviously, they didn't realize until it was too late where they were.
Yeah.
But in the ambush, there were mandrakes, and Drazar took this opportunity to full-on cut Jain Zar in half with his weaponry.
Whoa.
Just right through her, bisected her.
Qui-Gon Jinn style.
Yeah, basically. For all intent, well, it was more Darth Maul, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
never mind.
But for all intents and purposes, Jain Zar was dead.
Yeah.
And stuck in Aeldari, the realm of the Mandrakes, which is essentially like pitch black and filled with predators in the shadows. Now, Yvraine, thinking, oh damn, I'm responsible for this. Oh, Enead, hear me. Bring this one back to life, please, we beg of you. And what Enead would actually do is resurrect a nearby exarch that Jain Zar had alongside her, who was not bisected. And the exarch would resurrect, derobe, get Jain Zar's stuff, and put it on.
Right.
And what would happen was that the essence of Jain Zar would take the Exarch's identity into itself, but then Jain Zar would then become the dominant personality.
Right. That's super.
And then it's super interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, mate?
No, I was just going to say it's super weird. I really love the concept, though. So it's kind of like the spirit of these Phoenix Lords is more or less possessing this armor that whoever the new wearer, when they step into it, they more or less, in a way, kind of get possessed, but not really. Like, yeah, no, I do like that. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's giving yourself over to almost like a higher calling, right?
Yeah.
So the Exarchs become part of the Gestalt consciousness of the entity that would originally have been just Ferrophil, who would then become Jain Zar, but over time Jain Zar would be a combination of many people, with that original girl being the dominant personality, but all the experiences and insights of the following bearers of the armor would also like have little bits and pieces weaved into the personality.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if Exarch number 3 was really artistic, then Jain Zar is nowadays a little more artistic than how she begun, you know?
So does it also pick up like negative traits too?
In a sense, but it's not like super explored.
No. Okay. No, fair.
But with that said, though, Jain Zar did, get to have her revenge. She wakes up and fights her way out, but she's empowered also with the deathly energies of Ennead and manages to get Drazar.
Hell yeah.
She kills him back. Hell yeah.
Eye for an
But
eye.
I'm sure he will not stay gone. Because what actually happened is, well, hilariously, an incubi near Drazar decided to put on his armor and then was him again. So it really shines the light on Drazar being Ara, considering there is a scene where the incubi, one of their number, picks up Drazar's helmet, puts it on, and then they are Drazar.
Because he has the same sort of qualities as the other Phoenix Lords then.
Yeah. Or at least a perversion of it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Very interesting.
Yeah, so that's in a sense, what they do. They, in recent-ish times, show up and help like the Ynnari fight somebody. They help a craft world out of a sticky situation. But then, like a myth on the wind, they're gone again.
Yeah.
There is a particular myth about the Phoenix Lords called the Rana Dandra. Do you know of this?
No, I do not.
Okay, I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
The Rana Dandra is a prophecy which paints a quite gloomy tale about the final battle of the Aeldari race. In this particular prophecy, every Aeldari soul will fall in battle against chaos, but the conflict ends with Slaaneish's death.
Okay.
Technically, that Slaaneish's death part is the Ynnari extension of the prophecy, believing that with all of the souls of the Aeldari adrift in the warp, Ennead will fully wake up with enough power to sucker punch Slaanesh. Will the Aeldari race resurrect such a conflict after the fact? Maybe. But the Rana Dandra pre-Ynnari stuff was that it was a final Hail Mary against chaos, a final song to the race, where each of the Phoenix Lords, when they gather, all of them, at the same time, the prophecy begins. That's what's believed.
Okay.
So, in that Webway battle, when all those Phoenix Lords were present, they all dispersed quite quickly. Not all of them were there, obviously, but there was like 6 of them. And I can't help but wonder if they are all like, oh, no. Get away. Like, there's too many of us here. Leave now. But yes, the Rana Dandra is a prophecy where the Phoenix Lords will begin this final conflict with Fuegan, the fire dragon, actually being the last to fall. But all in all, what each of them are particularly up to is a little like vague and mysterious. It's said that Asurmen is circling the Eye of Terror, fighting off Slaanesh demons and helping out Craftworld Ulthwé here and there. Jain Zar is, a little distant nowadays following her resurrection from the Ynnari, but she's sort of like their de facto patron from the Phoenix Lord side of things. Fuegan's off on a bounty hunting quest to do this sort of mythical plot to kill so many targets in a specific like pattern across the galaxy that a dot to dot occurs and he's imbued with more power. I'm personally hoping it's a actual dragon that he gets to ride on.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty cool.
It would be pretty cool. Yeah, Karandras has disappeared. No one knows where they are, but then again, Karandras managed to fight Ara for 17 days and then disappeared into shadow. Like, just, I'm in the shadow now, bye. So he's probably right behind you, if I'm being honest.
I just checked, he's not.
Okay, he's in front of you. And but yeah, they are all an extension, in a way, of the energy of Khaine. When, like, the energies of Khaine stir, a ritual occurs where an exarch of the particular craft world is chosen to fill the role of the young king, who in the myth is Khaine, and the young king would then go into the chambers where a wraith construct body has fused with the fragment of Khaine, becoming the avatar. The young king will disappear for potentially days until there is a blood-curdling scream and then the avatar awakens for battle, but it's never confirmed if the young king is just like ceased to be forever, such as a Catan stuck in Upper Soul, or if the young king designated person is part of the avatar, much how like other exarchs become part of the Phoenix Lords.
Yeah.
It's a very sacrificial way of being a warrior, I must admit.
It is. It's kind of like these warriors are more of an idea than a person specific, or a specific person rather.
Like, all of the ones that are not dire Avengers are definitely like a little kooky. Well, there are some that are less kooky, but like the warp spiders are honoring the little baby creatures that actually help build and repair craft worlds, that are actually like wraith bone repairing little spiders. And the warp spiders are going with that aesthetic, but to actually do what they do, they cut a hole into the warp and then travel through the warp to then hop out of it somewhere else. And as an Aeldari, that sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah, because you're subjecting yourself to Slaanesh's line of sight.
Exactly. But yeah, there is apparently many other aspect shrines and Phoenix Lords that have not been discovered or recovered. Irilith of the Shadow Spectres, for example, the whole Forge World book that introduced her, they started off with actually like coming across her body that had been lost for ages. And like, oh, there she is. So if you lose the Phoenix Lord, like you better hope you know where they went, right? Because you might just not have them anymore because you need that armor.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if they lose the armor, they're gone.
Yep, more or less.
Damn.
It is believed that like Lhykosidae of the warp spider variety was some sort of like code name or folk tale spread about, and that the actual armor was kept in an Imperium vault only to be assaulted by warp spiders. Not much later was there a Lhykis in the lore. So, potentially the warp spider deity was defeated, but then their armor was kept away until warp spiders found it and someone gave up themselves to become the Phoenix Lord. And then now we have Lhykis. Like, there's a lot of moments like that, but without going over every little paragraph that appears in codices, that's like the sort of long and short of them, really. There's heaps of like little moments, of course, and Jain Zar especially appears in some novels such as the Night Lords trilogy, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
As an antagonist there, even though the protagonist is Chaos, and that's usually the antagonist. You get what I mean.
I get what you mean.
in the tabletop, they're not nearly as powerful as they are portrayed in lore, and that's for good reason. Like, you want to be able to take all of them, right? And they need to sort of balance them as being killable, but also like super lethal, which they are. So like in the like tabletop, for example, Jain Zar, she's 105 points. Vulcan, he stands 100, and he's just some dude in a outfit. Jain Zar is a T3, 4 up invulnerable save, 5 wounds model. But she fights first. She's got a weapon called the Blade of Destruction, which has 8 attacks, hits on 2s, AP 3, 2 damage, anti-infantry 3+. Her ability is like Whirling Death. If she's leading a unit, every time you advance, no you don't, you just add 6 to the movement characteristic, and you can ignore vertical distance. So Howling Banshees are going across the board.
Absolutely.
And then fighting first. Storm of Silence, her other ability, allows her to re-roll the wound roll if targeting a character unit with an anti-infantry 3+ weapon. Ooh. If you were to look at Lhykis, for example, she's really fun. She's 120 points, but she's got Deep Strike. Her melee weapons include an extra attacks profile called the Spider's Fangs, which are like Harley Quinn-esque weaponry. But her sword Weave Render is 5 attacks, lethal hits, 622. But she also gets like a torrent weapon. She has like an ambush ability, which when she leads a unit, they can do a charge in a turn in which they do their like teleport across the battlefield ability, which usually limits them from doing such a thing. So they're like keen ambushes. She also has Whispering Web, where in your shooting phase, if she shoots someone, they are sticky, and hits of 5 score a critical hit on that unit whenever a different unit shoots them. Like, there's so many of these little, like, these are the pinnacles of a very specific way of war.
Yeah.
One last one I'll mention is Asurmen. Asurmen, 125 points. He's got tactical acumen. When he's done shooting, his unit can then move up to 6 inches, but then they can't charge. But he's also got the Hand of Azurian. Once per battle, when he's elected to shoot, he can use an ability to give his ranged weapons a damage characteristic of 3 with anti-infantry 5+ and dev wounds. Like, just things like that, which is like, whoa.
Yeah, no, the move, shoot, move, very good for like popping out from behind cover, shooting, and then getting back behind cover.
Or into a transport. The classic is to put him in a Falcon, which has a transport capacity of 6, but you get to reroll the wounds if they are a disembarking unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, re-rolling, devastating wound, Hand of Azurian, not bad.
Sounds all right.
Oh, something I didn't mention. Asurmen's sword, the Sword of Azure, is an Eldari Dire sword, which is actually a sword kind of like a Imperium Force weapon, which transfers their psychic might into the weapon. But the Dire sword actually has a spirit within it that is able to actually, when they make contact with somebody, the spirit within the blade is actually then extinguishing the warp reflection of what it's attacking. So if you get hit with Asurmen's sword, there's a spirit in his sword that's also killing you in the warp.
So it's kind of like killing your spirit as well, making sure you're double dead.
Double dead.
Damn.
And the spirit in his sword is his brother that was possessed by a demon that he had to kill. So in revenge against Chaos, he bound the spirit of his brother into his sword so his brother could have his revenge.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything you would like to know more about?
Questions, yes. Who is your favorite?
Oh, I think you know.
Yeah. Jain Zar.
Karandras.
No.
We both went into the wrong answer.
It's Fuegan.
I love Fuegan. As I said, I was going to do a episode on him once upon a time and lean more into like what the prophecy was and the whole Phoenix Lord armor set and stuff. But then this year I really came to like Asurmen as both a model and just a fellow. But then I realized, he doesn't have much lore. Maybe I'll do Jain Zar. And then outside of some novel appearances and like the whole Ynnari campaign book thing, neither did she. So I was like, what did Fuegan have again? And I looked, I was like, oh man, I was really like clutching at straws with that one. And then I went like, what about Maugan Ra? And Maugan Ra's like, I saved a craft world. My brother's really, really good with flying. You're like, oh my god. Okay.
Oh.
But I do love Fuegan. I love the whole overwhelming destruction. And because of what I mentioned before, like the moment where he's fighting off greater demons, he's fighting them off. He's getting pummeled, but his wounds are making him stronger. Like his wounds are venting heat. Like his armor melts the air around him. And greater demons would just be like, I'm going to get you. He's like, no. And just like chucks his axe into their skull and like heat lances another, and you're like, yeah, go you. You're the greatest. You're so overwhelming. I love it. But people tend to have a soft spot for like Baharroth for the whole Birdman aesthetic, I suppose, or Maugan Ra if you like things a bit edgy. I know you like Lhykis though, am I right?
Yeah, I was just looking over the models again. Again, my opinions are purely aesthetic because words are hard. And yeah, no, Lhykis is a very cool looking model.
So good.
And also like the utility that you mentioned before is, utilities, I think utility units are excellent in this game. That's always a good thing to gravitate
You want
towards.
people that can move. And
Exactly.
Aeldari are the most move.
They are.
Like that's their whole shtick is move, as you know. As I completely encircled your army
I know.
in like 2 rounds.
It doesn't help that my army is the complete opposite and doesn't move.
Oh my god. I'm like headbutting a table on like round 5 as your Death Guard haven't died yet, but at the same time you were caught in the middle of the board for over half the game. Yeah, no, it's really cool. In the tabletop, of course, they have a detachment all about the aspect warriors. It's called the aspect host. The detachment rules each time warriors or Avatar of Khaine is selected to shoot or fight, you can select one of the following. You could either re-roll a hit roll of 1 or a wound roll of 1, which, if you're trying to go for keywords, you might choose the relevant one. But overall, that's pretty good. Do you have a lot of attacks you want to try and get through? Hits. Are you trying to really guarantee like some dev wound stuff? Go for wounds, And yeah, the aspect host, I've made a list. You can do all of them. You can do, I think, maybe all but one of the Phoenix Lords plus their relevant squad. I did replace Karandras with an Autarch because Karandras has been legendsified.
Cool.
And also the Avatar of Khaine. And like you can do a whole army which is just them. You can Phoenix Court. But if not doing that, the meta is to take 3 Phoenix Lords, usually Asurmen for the utility of him, Jain Zar for the whole character threat, and usually Lhykis, if not Fuegan. Some people do 4, and we'll take both of who I just said, with usually Baharroth being picked over Maugan Ra if you wanted to do something else, but Maugan Ra is usually the one that's not picked. But they're all good. I'm just talking from like a tawny perspective. All right. Any other questions you have for Phoenix Lord episode?
No, I think I'm all done. Very, very interesting. I actually really like the lore to how they sort of exist in universe. That's really cool.
It is very fun, yeah. It really helps the longevity of them as well, in the sense of them being your favorite character.
Yeah.
Like, these models have existed forever, and they're not going away from the lore. Like Karandras doesn't have a current data sheet, but Karandras exists still. Unlike, say, some Space Marine characters who were in like a novel a decade or 2 ago, but have since been killed. Like you can't do them anymore because they don't make their model anymore. But the rationale is that they died. Phoenix Lords aren't going to ever have that.
Yeah. But I think as well, like it allows these big characters in this universe to die, which is expected, right? Like it's a universe filled with war. And so if they die, it kind of makes sense, but they're still around in spirit and armor.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all do die. As I said, like Jain Zar was just straight up bisected. Irilith was lost on a frozen world for millennia. You know?
Very good.
Cool, mate. Cool, mate. I would love to do an army of these one day, but because they are like all the newest models, they're all so bloody expensive compared to some other parts of the army. Like Wraith constructs, you can get a knight for like $100. That's also how much Asurmen costs.
Yeah.
Like not exactly, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Very pricey.
All right, Zach. Thank you for joining me again for the final days.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Catch you in the next one. Bye bye bye. Study your martial arts, kids. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more on the way, so stay tuned. If you can, it would mean a lot to us if you could share this with friends, people you know will probably enjoy the episodes that we're putting out. If you are enjoying the Field Manual podcast, if you've been really enjoying these episodes and want to share your thoughts with us, maybe have some ideas about what you'd like us to cover next, jump onto our Discord. There'll be a link in the bio of this episode. It's a fun little community we're hoping to grow where people can come in, share their work in progress photos, have a chat about the hobbies, chat with us, we'll chat with you. We chat about our upcoming book clubs and things of that nature. Love to see you there. Thank you very much.